Earlier this year, I took a moment at the western approach of Hadrian's Wall into the city centre of Newcastle upon Tyne to think about the fact that that section of the wall, all the way through the city until you get to Wallsend, is in fact skipped by the National Trail. After heading on the wall, the trail heads south to the River Tyne and skips the wall. And it was a curious thought. I was contacted by Howard Williams. We had a bit of a chat about comparisons in terms of how the public think about these landscapes, these national boundaries, such as, for example, Offa's Dyke on the England-Wales border, broadly speaking. And I wanted to know more in terms of the ongoing efforts to get the National Trail modified. With that in mind, I contacted the MP, Chi Onwurah MP, who has been representing the people of Newcastle Central and West since 2010 for a chat about this. Before I go out and talk to the public, I'm going to be walking from the Western End all the way through to Wallsend, actually, getting people's opinions on the wall. But before I did, I figured, why not chat to the MP? Hello, Chi Onwurah, MP for Newcastle Central and West.
That's
Previously,
right. Yes,
Newcastle Central, I believe, since 2010.
that's right.
A
Yes.
veteran public servant in that sense. And I suppose I've just got a few questions for you about the Hadrian's Wall walk into Newcastle from obviously from the rest of the Hadrian's Wall walk. First of all, I guess obviously coming from Wallsend, what does Hadrian's Wall mean to you?
Well, I mean, Hadrian's Wall means so much to me as an MP, and also I was born in Wallsend, and the clue is in the title.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the end. It was the end of the wall which was the frontier of the Roman Empire,
Mm,
and which was a huge marvel of engineering. I'm speaking as an engineer myself before. Well, I'm still an engineer but before I worked as an engineer. Electrical engineer before coming into Parliament,
mm,
and it's kind of like it's a connection with the history and the past, if you like, and the origins of the Northeast,
mm,
and it's also a huge tourist attraction to the Northeast, and for me particularly, as at that time at the height of the Roman Empire, when the wall was built and when it was being protected, it would have been amongst possibly the most diverse part of what is now the United Kingdom. It would have
mm.
had soldiers from all over the Roman Empire, and we know there were Syrians stationed on the wall. So it's a real sort of it's a real representation
Mm,
of what Newcastle is today, as
mm.
well as its history that goes back, literally thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've done lots of work in the West End of Newcastle. Last year, for example, I was working there, and it was fantastic to see just how much local people do enjoy being on that route of the wall and having little names connected with forts and so on and so forth
Yes,
on road
yes,
names, this kind of thing.
yes, yes.
But why do you think that the National Trail does head south to the River Tyne? Because basically, from heading on the wall to Wallsend, arguably you're not really walking the wall, are you? Why is that?
Well, you're not walking the wall, and I've made this point to national trails, and I actually had a debate in Parliament about this
Mm,
because my and I still believe this. My impression is the reason why they did that is snobbery, pure and simple, in the view that the West End of Newcastle, it's a diverse, urban, multicultural, entrance to our city
mm,
with many fast food establishments, just as the wall would have been when it was being when it had soldier, when it was actually being during the Roman Empire,
Mm.
and it also had a lot of suffered from some of the challenges that we have now. All the litter from fast food, etc. And there would have been craftspeople and merchants, etc. Whilst that's the history of the wall, for some reason, I'm thinking like for reasons of snobbery, Heritage Tales thought that. People wouldn't want to see the reality of the wall now, because
Mm.
by dropping down to the river, there is no question about it. They are definitely not walking the wall.
Yeah.
And when I kind of raised this in Parliament, I got these outraged letters and emails from people who thought they had walked the wall, and then
Hmm.
just discovered they hadn't. They'd done what National Trails think is a more
Scenic.
pretty route,
Yeah.
scenic route,
Yeah.
a more scenic route. And I think, for me personally, that's fine. Give people the option if they want to follow the course of the Tyne. Of course, the Tyne is very pretty, but you need to also give people the option to actually follow the road, the wall as it is. And as you say, it kind of for my constituents who live along the wall,
Mm.
who were and are proud of having Hadrian's Wall, in their backyard, and sometimes, and the fact that it's been rejected by those who design these wall trails
Hmm.
is I think it is an insult.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not just the West End. I mean, obviously it's through the city centre, and then, for example, there's a section on the High Street in Byker, and the thing is,
Yes.
the High Street, obviously in Byker, is in some ways similar in terms of it being a victim of snobbery. People don't, some people don't like the idea of going there, but actually, it's an opportunity, I think, to raise this, the visitor numbers, raise the economy, and actually get a bit of interest going in terms of the actual route of the wall, and also some of the engineering challenges, like going across places like the Ousburn Valley, this kind of thing, to
Yes.
get to Wallsend. Um, so yes, I've made a note here that there've been books recently, I've noticed, in the past couple of years, about reflecting on the wall and photography and this kind of thing, and it's all about this idea of a true path. Do you have any experience of people's sense of that true path and sort of the connection to the West End and beyond?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there there are bits of the wall outside, in people's gardens, and
Mm.
you can go around a corner in Benwell or Elsick and come across
Yeah.
some great temple to Roman gods,
I mean,
and
Benwell literally means behind the wall. It's about the
behind the
wall.
bar.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it means a lot to local people, and
Mm.
to local schools, in
Mm.
terms of making history real.
And that
And
road is straight. Like, you
The
could you
Roman
could see it.
road,
You could see
yes,
it. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think, but also, Newcastle is often thought of as it is, a Victorian industrial city,
Mm.
and certainly that was where a lot of our sort of more recent wealth was generated, and not necessarily fairly distributed. But
Mm.
it's also, was this center of Roman sort of activity and industry and innovation. And I think that's kind of really important that we celebrate and recognize that
Mm.
across the country.
And I suppose in that sense, a sense of continuity. It's not as though Newcastle just popped out of nowhere, and it's not like the West End just popped out of nowhere. It
No.
exists in the context of the wall, doesn't it? Yeah. I did make a note here as well that yes, you called that debate, I think, in February 2022. And January 2024, Julia Lopez MP, Minister for State for Media, Tourism and Creative Industries, promised to take this up with Lord Parkinson, the Undersecretary of State of Department for Culture, Media and Sport. And her words were, I was not aware of this outrageous oversight on paths and signage. Strong words. I shall certainly raise this with the noble Lord Parkinson when I next get the opportunity. I suppose just a final question, well, maybe penultimate question. What is the latest from the DCMS?
Well, it is true. It's actually true that whenever I raise this with somebody, they
Mm.
are generally surprised and outraged. And just they say, "What the walk doesn't follow the wall."
But to be
And you
fair,
know,
so I don't know about you. To be fair, the first thing people are surprised by, if they're not from this part of the world, because I'm originally from North Wales, but I've lived here for like a third of my life now, is that we're not on the Scottish border. So there's that, and then sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, the people who have some knowledge of northern
Good.
geography are amazed that the wall, the heritage trails, the Hadrian's Wall walks do not follow the wall,
Yeah.
and so we have had a lot of support from ministers under the Conservative government, and now absolutely. And my understanding is that the sort of agreement in principle to have what is called a braided walk, which is where there are two. You have a choice. They don't get rid of the existing walk,
Choose your own
but
adventure.
they add in the actual walk along the wall, but there's some issues around enabling that. But one of the key issues is around funding the new sort of signage that would
Yeah.
be required. I mean, like often it does get down to money, and I'm hoping, hoping that we can get some charities or others to come forward to help with that funding. But we do need to get the actual sort of official go ahead from DCMS and those who are responsible for the trails.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that will come through soon.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great to sort of follow that this story and that progress. And I imagine, for example, access from the heading on the wall side across essentially the main route south, the sort of A1 roundabout, and then into the west end will be
Just
interesting. Yeah, but I suppose finally, is there anything that you would like to say, or that I haven't thought to ask you about this topic?
um Yeah, I would just want to add just what a delight it is to follow the actual wall trail, rather than the national trail and other organizations that follow them, like the Ramblers, etc., take us away from the wall, but actually following the wall, seeing the wall in its current context and imagine its historical context, that's a real pleasure. So as well as this being for my constituents, the people of Newcastle Central and West, I think it's also for those who want to see history, living history, because that's what the wall is in our city.
Amen. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm actually, as part of this little project, I'm going to be walking that section and talking to some members of the public about what they think as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And I suppose all that remains is just to thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.